Someone tells you to get over it, move on, be strong, stop crying. Or maybe they tell you it's been long enough. And maybe you believed it. You stayed busy. You smiled when people asked you if you were okay. You told yourself you were fine. But grief doesn't disappear because you ignore it. It goes underground. And in fact, it'll return. It always comes back. This is Health, Wellness, and Community. I'm your host, Dr. Quentin Moore. Today, we're talking about grief, what it really is, what it does to your body, and how to work through it. Not around it, not past it, but through it. Let's start here. Grief is not a weakness. It's not a mental illness. It's not something you need to fix, suppress, or apologize for. Grief is a natural human response to loss. And that loss doesn't necessarily have to be death. Grief can show up when you lose a relationship, when you lose a job, when you get a diagnosis that changes your future, when a friendship ends, when your child grows up and your role changes. Grief shows up when the version of yourself that you used to be is gone. It can show up when the life that you planned doesn't happen. Grief is love with nowhere to go, and it deserves to be honored, not hidden. Here's what the science tells us. Grief activates the same regions of the brain as physical pain. This isn't a metaphor. Neuroimaging studies actually show that emotional pain and physical pain are processed in overlapping neural circuits in the brain. When you're grieving, your brain is literally in pain. Now that's something that you didn't think about, right? And it goes deeper than that. Grief can actually trigger a stress response in your body. It causes the cortisol to rise, your immune system to weaken, inflammatory processes to increase. Studies published in the Journal of Psychosomatic Medicine show that bereaved individuals have significantly higher rates of cardiovascular disease, infection, and even cancer. This is why grief is a health issue. This is why we're talking about it on the Health, Wellness, and Community podcast. Because you can't be well if you're carrying unprocessed grief. In fact, your body will tell you eventually. It always does. You've probably heard of the 5 stages of grief. And if you haven't, let me tell them to you. And if you have, let me refresh you. There's denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross introduced that framework in 1969, and it changed how the world talked about grief going forward. But here's what most people don't know. Kubler-Ross herself, before she died, stated that these stages were never meant to be a rigid roadmap for grief. They were observations, not a checklist, not a timeline. You see, grief is not linear. You don't move through it in order. In fact, you might be in acceptance on Tuesday and back in anger on Thursday. You may also skip some stages entirely. In some cases, you might circle back to grief that you thought that you had resolved years later. And when it comes to the term getting over it when talking about grief, that phrase really needs to go. You know, you don't get over grief, you integrate it. I like to say that you get through it, and once you're through it, you still have some residual left on you, but you learn to live with it. You carry it differently. The goal isn't to reach a place where the loss doesn't matter. In fact, the goal is to reach a place where the loss doesn't stop you from living. There's no deadline on grief. Anyone who put one on you is and was wrong. So how do you actually work through grief? Well, here are 5 practices that actually help you work through grief, not around it. First, you have to feel it. And I know this sounds simple, but it's not. We live in a culture that rewards busyness and punishes vulnerability. But suppressed grief, it doesn't heal, it festers. It turns into chronic anxiety, unexplained anger, physical illness. So I want you to give yourself permission to feel what you feel. Cry if you need to cry. Sit in the pain if you need to. And listen to this. You can't heal what you refuse to to feel. Now that was good. Second, name it. Get specific about what you lost. Not, I lost my mother, even though that hurts. But you want to be very specific. What specifically do you miss? Her voice on Sunday mornings? Do you miss the meal that she used to cook? Do you miss how she understood what you were going to say before you even said it? Naming your grief precisely gives it shape. And things with shape can be held. Things without shape, they just haunt you. Third, honor it. Create a space for your grief to exist. A conversation, a journal, a walk, a prayer. Something that says this person or this loss was real and that this chapter in my life mattered. And I'm acknowledging that. When we look around the world, many cultures around the world build mourning rituals for just that exact reason. When I say mourning, I'm talking about mourning as in loss, not mourning as in the beginning of the day. And don't skip your ritual. Fourth, find your community, because this is critical. In fact, research from Harvard's study of adult development, one of the longest running studies on human happiness in history, shows that the quality of our relationships is the single greatest predictor of our health and longevity. Isolation makes grief worse. Connection makes grief survivable. You were not designed to grieve alone. Find your people and let them in. Fifth, move forward. Not past, not over, but forward. There's a difference, because moving past grief, it pretends that it never happened. Moving forward means carrying the loss with you while still choosing to live. You don't leave your grief behind. You integrate it into your daily life, into who you are, and you allow it to make you a deeper, more compassionate, more present person. Grief changes us. However, it can make us bitter or it can make us better. That choice, as hard as it is, it belongs to us. Here's your challenge for this week. Identify one loss that you've been carrying that you haven't fully acknowledged. It doesn't have to be a death. It can be anything. Name it, write it down, say out loud what you've lost and why it mattered. Then take one step toward community, one honest conversation, one I'm not okay, one person you let in. And here's your Monday mantra. Grief is not my enemy. It's proof of love. I will not rush my healing. I will feel it, honor it, and move forward. Remember, grief is not a weakness. It is one of the most human experiences there is. Your body feels it. Your brain processes it. Your community can hold it with you. But you have to let it move through you instead of setting up a home inside of you. If you're finding value in these Motivational Monday sessions, subscribe to the Health, Wellness, and Community podcast. Also, I want you to do me a favor. Share this episode with someone who's been told to just move on. Someone who needs to hear that their grief is valid and that healing is possible. And if this message resonates with you, leave a message in the comments. Tell me what you're working through, because you're not alone. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for joining me for Motivational Monday. This week, let yourself feel it, all of it, and then take one step forward. Now, go honor your journey. We out.